Hello and welcome to today's Wyoming Community Navigator Program webinar. We are so glad you've joined us for today's presentation. My name is Mandy Bailey, the Education and Advising Director with the Wyoming Community Navigator Program. I'll be your facilitator today, working behind the scenes through the chat or question function of GoToWebinar to assist you the best that I can with any technical difficulties or questions you might have. Currently, all microphones are in listen-only mode in order to minimize the background noise, but feel free to type in your questions in the question function of GoToWebinar, and we can answer those and we'll monitor those throughout the webinar. And you also may want to monitor the chat. We're going to be posting helpful links as well as a couple of questions. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent out to all participants about a day after its conclusion. The Wyoming Community Navigator Program is funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration and utilizes the Wyoming Entrepreneurial Support Network to reduce barriers all small businesses often face, including those owned by groups such as veterans, women, and those from rural communities and communities of color. The Wyoming Community Navigator Program uses a hub and spoke model to pursue its goals. Through our collective efforts, the hub and spokes provide training, mentorship, access to capital, and access to other resources to help business owners build resiliency and ultimately be the driving force behind Wyoming's economic recovery. Today's webinar is Expo Expert, how to ensure the maximum return on your investment as an event vendor, and is presented by Michelle Y. Talbert. Michelle is a relationship marketing strategist and consultant who curates inclusive, safe spaces for entrepreneurs and corporate clients to excel in business by creating mutually beneficial, ethical relationships. She's been featured in Forbes, The Washington Post, and other major publications. Michelle hosts workshops and events for women in business to connect, collaborate, and create cash flow unapologetically. In January of 2020, Michelle founded Her Power Space, a woman-forward, men-welcoming boutique co-working space near Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And soon after opening, in response to the devastating impact of COVID-19 on small businesses, she created the No Small Business Left Behind series, which has highlighted approximately 150 small businesses to date. Michelle graduated from Cornell University and holds a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania with a business certificate from Wharton. In June of 2021, Michelle received a certificate in women's entrepreneurship from her alma mater, Cornell. And so without further ado, we will hear from Michelle.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Wanted to make sure it's sharing screen again. I got a prompt, so please let me know if you can see my title screen for the slides.
Yes, I can. Be an Expo expert.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's why you're all here, and that's why I'm here. Thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you so much, Nick, who's there in the library, and all the folks who are there in the library. Hello, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what time it is. I'm on the East Coast. And also want to thank the NAACP of Cheyenne, the Cheyenne NAACP, the SBDC, and the whole Wyoming Community Navigator program. It's such an incredible program. I would like to start us off this evening with a story that will be our guidepost as we take our journey together. Back in olden days, there was a farmer. We'll call him Lucky. Lucky had a horse who ran away. And that evening, all of his neighbors came by because Lucky had lost his only horse on his farm. And they said, "Oh, this is so terrible." And Lucky said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, the horse that ran away returned with 6 wild horses in tow, which now became Lucky's 7 horses on the farm. And that evening, his neighbors came by and said, "You're so lucky. You now have 7 horses." And Lucky said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, while trying to break one of the wild horses, Lucky's son was thrown and broke his leg. Oh my gosh. That evening, the neighbors came by and said, oh, this is so unlucky. And Lucky said, maybe yes and maybe no. The next day, folks came through from the military, and every boy, man over 18 was supposed to serve. Lucky's son had a broken leg, and he was passed by. That evening, his neighbors came by, and you know what they said. Oh, you're so lucky. And Lucky said, maybe yes, maybe no. The bottom line is perspective, right? What is the perspective of the person witnessing the event? And in this case, we're going to be talking about your perspective as an event host, right? As a table host. And we're going to start with your intention for success today, right? Your perspective of what it is that you want to achieve by being at this workshop. What does success look like for you? And to that extent, I have two questions that we want to ask at the outset. The first one is, how many of you, if you have a service-based business, please put a 1 in the chat, and maybe Nick can give us a total of how many ones. And then if you are a product-based business owner, put a 2 in the chat. So if you're service-based, it's a 1 in the chat. If you are product-based, it's a 2 in the chat. I'm trying to look at the chat myself. My screen I can't actually see it.
So far, it is 50-50.
Okay, all right, great. And so while we have the poll open, I'm going to ask the second question. For those of you who will be participating in the Juneteenth Expo, how many of you, this will be your first Expo? Yes, say 1, or event or pop-up shop, your first time hosting a table or a booth. And for those of you who have done it, could probably be sitting in this chair right now, put a 2. So 1 is, I'm a first timer, I'm a newbie, and 2 is, I could be teaching this course, Michelle, move over. In other words, more than once. And what are folks saying?
I can give you the results of our first question.
Okay.
We had 75% were service-based.
Okay.
And we're waiting for the second question.
Thank you. And so how many of you are a first timer? And how is yes, 1, and no, 2?
It looks like the majority is no. This is not the first time.
Okay, great, great, great. So please, 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 whether you are a first timer or a experienced event host, table host, pop-up shop host. There's so many names for this, and they all go through my head at once, and I try to say them all at once. For those of you who have done this before, please feel free to share ideas in the chat. This is not just a one-way conversation. So perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mandy.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Is the poll closed?
So far, 75%. This is not the first time.
Okay, great. We can close the poll, that's fine, because I lost part of my screen when the poll is there.
Oh, okay.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so success for this workshop. There's going to be a link placed in the chat if it's not there already. If you go to herpowermoves.com/Cheyenne, and there I have some materials for you, beginning with I don't know how many of you have ever heard of the radio station WIIFM. What's in it for me? I really created this as a worksheet to help myself, and now I share it broadly for free, to help myself really understand why was I showing up for a webinar or a workshop, and it walks you through what are the promises of the presenter to you, what is it that you hope to take away, and gives you opportunity to take notes as well, which you can do on the screen or print it out and use it over and over for any trainings that you attend. The one thing that I love to tell people is at the end of the worksheet, there's an opportunity for you to promise yourself that you will take away one thing at least from the presentation that you're attending and implement it within the next 24, people have told me 24 is too harsh, so I'll say 24 to 72 hours, okay? So you can download that and you can see it on the screen, herpowermoves.com/Cheyenne. Okay, like I said, we should hold presenters accountable. So my 3 promises to you are that we're going to help you create a table that is inviting. We're going to help you generate traffic and value from everyone who visits your table, and to give you some structure to follow up with every visitor in a timely and profitable manner. So I have a question. Please drop it in the chat, and Mandy, feel free to shout out answers as people drop them in the chat. Would you consider your participation in an expo successful if you sell out, or if you sold one product or got one booking, but received 150 names and email addresses on the sign-up sheet? So would you rather sell out of your product? It's an either or, right? Sell out of your product and that's it, right? Or you get 150 new folks on your email list who have stopped by your table. Any thoughts between that in the chat? Any thoughts about which one would be more valuable to you that day and going forward in your business?
We're waiting to gather some answers. So.
Okay, well, I'll keep chat. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Yeah.
Oh, hey, so this is Nick over in Cheyenne Library. The consensus here is selling out because we got food service. We got caterers over here.
I got it. No, caterers, you are in a totally different bucket. My son has a catering company in Montana. I totally understand. That is a very perishable and important. But what I would say then is to asterisk that and say, please get everybody's email who purchases from you, okay? Because it's really, really important, and it gives you the opportunity to follow up. And Nick, while you have your mic open, for those caterers out there and those food truck folks, how many of you have a way for your customers, people who purchase food from you at any event, to then become members of your community, get on your email list? Is there a show of hands that we can look at? And there's no shame either way.
Oh, yeah. I can get the camera going. So
thanks for being here.
Yeah, whenever I do events or a party or something, I use my phone number, so people will come up and I just provide my phone number to them, and then
I think my sound a little bad.
They reach out back to me on stuff.
So yeah, the mic may not be picking him up, but he's saying that he gives out his phone number, and so he's got like his client list there in his phone.
So you give out your phone number, or you get their phone numbers?
No, I give out my phone number.
He gives out his phone number.
So would I challenge you when you do the Juneteenth event to start collecting phone numbers and email addresses as well? We're going to talk through a little bit about how you can use them, but you would, as the business owner, we want to control as much of the communication as possible so we can get our sales, we can get our information in front of customers to make them repeat customers, and in front of prospective customers to make them customers and advocates for us. Right? So to control that information, you need to get their number. The goal of the sheet the link that I just shared, the very last page is a sample of the sign up form that I use. You can go low tech or high tech whichever works, but to give people an opportunity to be able to give them their information so you can reach out to them after the event. Thank you for sharing that. Do you get a lot of phone calls from people? They want you to do deliveries and things like that?
Oh, yeah, it's word of mouth. It's what works best for me as far as expanding, and it doesn't grow too quickly since I'm the only person I don't have an employee or anything, it's just me. So it just seemed to work out as far as the natural growth. It's worked out best for me.
No, that sounds great. That sounds great. Congratulations.
So our online responses were we would rather get 150 contacts.
Okay, so it is a mixture. It's an interesting mix, exactly. Yeah, because you can control that communication for all the reasons that I said. So talking about that return on investment, right? And that's being clear about what an acceptable ROI is. So for the gentleman, sorry, I didn't catch his name in the room, his ROI, his return is like maybe obviously selling out, everybody in the room selling out and selling as much as possible, but also to be able to get that food in everybody's belly so that they can spread the word about him. And hopefully he has a Google page or something like that where he can generate reviews. So just a little bit more about my story. I graduated high school when I was 17 and went straight into the workforce and did the good government day job and started going to school at night, had my first child when I was 19, had my daughter when I was 20. And, you know, by the time I was 22, I was divorced, single mom with 2 kids. I had day job and a class at night at community college once a semester, right? But fast forward 10 years, my kids and I moved up to Ithaca. I graduated from Cornell when I was 30 years old. That's my then 10-year-old son, drying my tears. That is us now. They are in their 30s, thankfully for me. And so I opened Her Power Space as a place to bring together small business owners. And one of the things that's really important, I'm so glad you're in the library, I'm so glad you're on this call, part of the SBDC and the Community Navigator program, is because the knowledge sharing with people who are in the room with you is super important to your growth. And so just to say that, you know, to have the opportunities to get in front of the audiences by connecting with people. And I show the slide because it's about relationships. And we're going to talk a little bit about the relationships of the people who are at the table with you, all right? So 2020, 2021, okay, we're over it for 2022, and now we're back outside, which is great. Right? And so thinking through that ROI, that return on your investment, I'm going to use the analogy. If you have seen one of my daughter's favorite movies, Beauty and the Beast, and it's Be Our Guest, Be Our Guest, we want to roll out the red carpet and have our visitors stay in touch with us, want to stay in touch with us, want to hear from us, and to look at this as being our guest. And so the first question I want to ask you, and for those of you who are able to access the packet of worksheets that I put together for you, on, I believe it's the second page, there's a table. You'll see there's a round table, and I'm going to stop sharing for a second just so that folks who aren't able to access that right now can see this workbook. So do you see my workbook screen right now, Mandy?
Yep, I sure do.
Okay, great. So what I've done is I've incorporated a way for you to kind of do a schematic on top of your table so that you can lay out how you want to present for those of you who will have a table or any surface that people can come to. And even if you have a food truck, to think about, are there things that are inviting people? Usually it's the menu and the big pictures of the food, right? And so for those of us who have tables, what can we think about to put on there? And I'm going to go through this now and then go back to the slides, but I want you to see this now. This is all in the worksheet that you can use at your leisure for this event and any other event. So typically it's a round table or a rectangular table. Also here, just like in presentations, the promises, what are the promises of the folks who are hosting the event and the workshop? What are the promises that they have made to you? What do you consider profitable? Taking notes. And then also here is an event checklist, because for those of you who have done this before, there's nothing worse than getting to the event and realizing you've left like some piece of a stand or something like that at home, right? And you have to figure it out on the fly. So this gives you an opportunity to like make checklists for the things that are typical and then write in so that you don't forget anything. My goal here is to just make this experience as easy for you, as frictionless for you, so you can focus on doing what you do best. And then the last sheet is exactly what I mentioned. This is a sample of the sheets that I use at events. And you'll note here that I actually collect zip codes, because I have a brick and mortar, and this may be so for the food truck folks too, right? If you find out that you're seeing a lot of the same zip codes or clusters of zip codes, that may be a place for marketing, that may be a place to show up, that may be a place to know that, hey, people in this particular zip code find out a lot about me, and that would be a great way for me to interact with them and find more of them there, right? You can obviously change this to whatever types of indicators make sense for you to capture. And then I'd just like to say, how did you learn about today's event or something like that? Okay, so all of that is there for your purposes at herpowermoves.com/Cheyenne. So starting with the table, that's why I switched over to that schematic. Is your table inviting? Is there something on the table that would attract people? Because oftentimes as business owners, it is very, very tempting to sell, right? And to have everything that's facing out to the public be about us and our product. But if we can put something on the table that attracts people, remember the what's in it for me, the radio station WIIFM, now from the POV of the folks who will be walking past your table. Yesterday, one of our folks were in the space. He's doing his very first ever pop-up shop in about 2 weeks. He has an aromatherapy line. And what I mentioned to him that could be something to attract people to his table is he does natural things, but he doesn't do hand sanitizers or any type of hand wipes. And so I said, hey, why don't you see if you can get something at a low price point? People are out and about. They probably want little hand sanitizers, maybe masks, things like that, that are a low price point, but are worth the investment to draw people to your table. And so these are pictures from my very first Expo table. And this was a women's event. And you see the red bottom shoes. Some of us know about the red bottom shoes, right? The red bottom shoes are definitely a magnet. I don't sell shoes, but I do sell community for women. And so I put mints and water and things like that on the table, as well as some little journals and giveaways. It was about them. And that table increased my already large email list by 20% just by the women who were in the room. So it was a highly, and this is kind of the first thing, where I say that intentionality of why you're going, and that's part of it. Who's going to be in the room? Who do you expect to be on the street, to be outside, to be in the audience? Are they your ideal client? Okay, so I started with a story. Some of you may know Aesop's Fables, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. They're called stories with morals, right? The tortoise and the hare. And so the process we're going to walk through is the attraction. How do you bring people to your table? They might not have thought about you. They might not have said, I'm going because I want to get that hot dog, right? But then they see the hot dog and it's like, yeah, I want that. How do you engage with them once they've arrived at your table? How do you solicit information, right? We say we want to control the communication with them after they leave. While they're there is a perfect time to get information, like I said, zip codes, things of that nature on your sign-up sheet. Then we can make our offer. Many of us lead with an offer. We lead with the sale, right? And then give them time to ponder what we offer and then summarize. So that's what we're going to walk through. And that's Aesop's Fable. Attract. Is your table appealing? Are you appealing? And what I mean is not, are you cute, right? What I mean is that if you've ever been to an event where you walk past a table and people are sitting behind the table, yeah, right? Like exactly like this, right? It's like they're leaning back, they're just looking at people. There's no interaction. They don't even seem like they want to be there. If anything, they're saying, go away, not come to me. So that's what I mean. Are you appealing? That doesn't mean you have to stand the whole time, but at least when people come by, maybe stand up, come around the table, right? Depending on how busy it is, right? These are just suggestions based on your obviously common sense about what the traffic flow is by your table. But I find that when I come out and around the table, with distancing, of course, in mind, that talking to people, they don't feel that barrier. That physical barrier being removed helps to remove emotional barriers, which we know as salespeople is something that we want to do, right? For that know, like, and trust factor. So engage. One of the first questions I typically ask people, not, hey, do you want to buy my stuff? Hey, do you see this? Hey, I have that. Unless they start with a question. If they're just kind of perusing and looking, you know how people kind of scan because they're like, please don't sell to me, right? You can look at them and see, like, please don't sell to me. I say, what brings you out today, right? And then engage them based on their answer. Make it about them. Learn more. Listen for cues, right? That people love talking to themselves. They say people's favorite, sound is their own name being spoken. Make it about them. Ask them their name, right? And so then you can solicit more information. You can learn more about them. What did bring them out? Oh, you want to celebrate our first ever to be able to be celebrated Juneteenth. Oh, I love to support Black-owned businesses. Oh, what does that look like for you? Are there other Black-owned businesses that you've supported? And then you can kind of guide that conversation, right? And then circle back to expand. And then that's the offer, but the offer is not a sale. The offer is, how can I help you? The offer is there something that you sell? The service providers, right? A lot of you are service providers. So like me, we don't go to expos necessarily with things like food and things like that to sell, right? What we're selling is ourselves. We're selling that you can trust that the service that we'll provide for you, whether it's coaching, financial services, taxes, things like that, those are relationship-driven interactions. And so proving that you have their best interest at heart, right, from the outset will go a very long way in helping to build that trust right from your table, right? So that's the offer, right? Do you know someone who can help them if what you sell can't? There's nothing wrong with referring folks, right? And that endears you to your colleagues as well, right? And then let them learn more about you to the extent that that makes sense. And absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, that was a women's event, that first one, and a lot of the events I do are for small business owners. Even within my space, we have a large percentage, even though it's her power space, the large percentage of men in our community. And so just because on its face, your product may have a particular demographic, there may be adjacent folks who are still interested in what you offer, right? And so when you learn more about them, you can find out, do they fit into what you have to offer, or give them an opportunity to make that determination for themselves, right? And then be quiet, right? Just kind of give them a moment to completely, absorb what you've shared, what you've learned. Quick question, Mandy, are there any questions in the chat?
I don't see any so far.
Okay. So give them time to think, right? You've told them now about what you offer. You've told them, you've learned about them. You've given them an opportunity possibly to sign up on your sheet or opt in through technology, right? And so then see if there is something that you can do to follow up, and then let them ask you questions as well. And then finally summarize. Are there any points that came up where maybe you're going to refer them to another person, where you're going to be able to follow up with them. What's the next step? When can they expect to hear from you, right? So this is on the service-based side. Again, for folks who sell products, get them on your email list. Tell them that, hey, especially if you're in something like oils and things of that nature, oh, well, we have a bundle coming up, we have a sale coming up, we have different things that are in the pipeline that we're also creating. Would love to stay in touch with you so you can learn more, right? And so this is a tough one, right? A lot of times people don't want to talk about this part. And because we have said we know what success looks like for us at the outset, it is quite possible that if your idea of success is strictly on selling, it could feel like a fail, right? But that's where we get to get creative. And that's where we talk to our neighbors. We find out that there might be other business owners around the event who are great for us to connect with, right? Walk the event, especially if you have a buddy with you who can continue to stay at your table. Pick up other folks' products, learn about their businesses, see if there are ways to collaborate, right? To have peer relationships, mentors, mentees, to help your business journey. There's a phrasing that says that we often work in our business, especially as solopreneurs, right? We're always in it. We're selling, we're creating new products, we're servicing clients, we're cooking, we're in the business. But it's very important to be working on the business, strategizing, thinking very big picture, 35,000 feet. And if you have an event that has less traffic than you thought or expected, that's a perfect time to work on your business from the perspective of making strategic relationships and reaching out to the organizers, seeing if there are ways that you can actually get on your social media from the event and say, hey, you guys are missing it, right? 2 seconds before, not 2 seconds, 2 minutes. I tend to be hyperbolic sometimes. 2 minutes before we went live, I put a post up, just like took a little quick pic here and said, getting ready to go live in Wyoming from Florida. And Mandy saw it and reposted it, right? So that's adding value because I tagged folks who are hosting this event because I want them to get shine. I want people to know, right? So if you endear yourself to the organizers of events, when other opportunities arise, you will stay top of mind because trust me, you're doing something that a lot of folks would not do. And that makes a difference. That stands out. People notice. Okay, so again, do not overlook your neighbors. It's amazing. I'm still doing business with one of the banks who has given us money for events and sponsored events and things like that. And the first time we met was because she had a table across from me for her bank, right? And I connected with her and we've stayed connected since. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. So please don't underestimate the value of connecting with the other folks in the room. Okay, so I'm gonna take a sip of water, see if there are any questions before we go into follow-up time.
Nick, do you guys have any questions in your room?
Nope, no questions. No questions over here.
Okay, thank you. So the fortune is in the follow-up. After the event, there are things that you can continue to do beyond, obviously, for those of us who are service providers, delivering the service, for those of us who have made other types of sales, emailing, asking for Google reviews, asking for Yelp reviews, asking people if they like the food, surveying people. You can pull from that. So I'm going to just kind of do them in buckets. So starting with that first piece, right? If you email the folks, right, the gentleman, what's the gentleman's name, Nick, who spoke?
Thomas.
Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Thomas sells food. He gets the phone number. Now he's going to get the phone number too, right? He can text and say, hey, was it good? Did you like it? And then shoot a link and say, hey, here's our Google page, or hey, here's our Yelp. Would you mind leaving us a review? Right? And that word of mouth and spreading it that way. Staying connected with folks, right? Because now you have the ownership of the communication channel. And if someone says that, no, it was not the most positive experience, that's important and valuable information to get as well, because you can iterate, ask more questions. You can send links to surveys, right? To ask people to give you feedback. And at the end of the survey, you can say, is there anyone else you think we should reach out to? Is there anyone else who you think would be interested in what we provide, right? And so these are ways to continue to get additional follow-up and additional value even after the event has ended. If you blog, if you do things on video, if you do, Instagram Reels, things of that nature, you can do a follow-up to the event. You can do a review of the event, because again, there are multiple people. It's not just about the potential customer. It's the other vendors. It's the people who host the event. So when you think more broadly of a return on the investment, you get a bigger return because you're now expanding the bucket of folks who can assist you. You're expanding the bucket of folks who can be exposed to what you offer, right? Is this making sense? If you collect addresses, mailing addresses, things of that nature, or even emails, you can do a handwritten note and scan it. You can do a handwritten note and take a picture of it and send it as a text. There are ways to stand out among the crowd, among the noise. Some of us are in very crowded spaces and have a lot of competition in our industries. And there are a couple of ways to do that. You can use Google Forms, sending that link, getting additional information from people, Shopify, MailerLite, all these different tools that you can use to manage relationships with both customers, other vendors, and with the folks who are in charge of the event itself, right? So I don't know if there are other questions, other thoughts. I love to actually answer questions to help give feedback where it's needed, because like we said, there are a lot of people here who have already done this. So I would love to hear, what did you come to hear? And then let's talk about it from that perspective, if that's okay with you, because you showed up. So how can I pour into you? How can I add additional value? Was there a particular question you had? Is there a challenge that you found when you are doing these kinds of events that you're trying, or a hurdle that you want to overcome? What brought you out today? And figuratively, both online and in the library.
It was just general knowledge for me, so just learning, always learning. So.
Thank you.
You can come. I don't know if you want to come up. Come on up. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you out just because you're so far back.
Hi. So my question is, and thank you for the information. My question is, once I have my email list of potential customers or clients, I don't have a brick and mortar business. I'm more of a private chef, special occasions kind of deal. So I don't necessarily have events that I send out to say, hey, come check me out here, or do this on that day, or I don't have any sales that I associate with my business. So my question, I guess, would be, what's the frequency of the emails that I would send out if I am sending things out, and what exactly would I put in that if I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't have anything specific.
No, this is a great question. Thank you for that question. What's your name?
Katrina?
Katrina?
With a P?
P, Katrina, thank you for asking that question. So in those instances where you're a private chef, so I'm going to definitely use that as the example. If you are a private chef and now you're going to do an event, are you going to be selling food? And do you have anything on your table that lets folks know, hey, I'm actually a private chef as well? Because that can begin to plant the seed, right? So you're there and you're vending, but since, like you said, you don't have a brick and mortar and you don't typically have that kind of outbound marketing sales way of doing things, letting people know what you actually do when they visit your table and are experiencing you and the food for the first time is extremely important. So to the extent, I don't know what your setup is like if you're behind the scenes cooking or you have folks that will be interacting or you're interacting, make sure that you find out from those folks and have them sign up. You might have a column that says, have you ever worked with a private chef before? Right? Which now brings me to my next point. There are some people who don't even realize that working with a private chef is something that they could do, not just a luxury. Right? And so once you know what category you fit in as well, like, do you position yourself as a luxury, or are you like, I love to come in and do meals for folks and families and things like that? So just know that, think about the way you structure your business matters and the communication to follow up, right? Now what you do is, now you've gotten those emails, you've asked them a couple of questions, maybe have you ever worked with a private chef before? The next email that you send out, hey, it was great meeting you, right? It was great learning more about you. And then you auto-populate that field. That field says, oh, in your message to me, you said you'd never worked with a private chef before. Here's a list of the top 5 ways to be successful working with a private chef. Right? Here's a way to think outside of the box, as private chefs can be accessible to you. Are you a busy family? Right? So your emails, each email can continue to get more information while at the same time positioning you within your lane as the person who then they should be working with. Right? So I don't know what kind of social media you're sharing, because that's another opportunity. Most online email service providers now enable you to share public IG posts, public Facebook posts, etc., right in the body of the email. So if you find that you have a particular social media post that's really popular, you can also send that as an email and give more color around it. Right? So each email should enable you to add value and then have a call to action. One specific call to action, whatever makes sense for you. For you, that could be, hey, would you like to hop on a 15-minute call? It could be, hey, fill out this survey so that I can then call you or learn more about you. And you can begin to also qualify your customers. This goes for everyone. This process works once you know who you serve, what it is that you provide. Then you can begin to get more information to find out who your ideal clients are and then interact with them. And people love infographics and listicles. Today happens to be Best Friends Day, National Best Friend Day. So the email that I sent out to my list was the top 8 ways to show love and appreciation to your biz bestie, right? Because I work with small business owners. So I tweaked it a little bit. And then I put together a graphic and put it on my IG page, right? That's the 8 or the 7 top ways to show your biz bestie love. So thinking through, how can I add value but still keep top of mind for what it is that I do? That's the important piece. And then to have a call to action. Reply to this email if you'd like more information. Reply to this email if you'd like to get on my secret recipe of the week club. Is that helpful, Patrina?
Yeah, that was great. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? I love to answer like specific questions. You're here with specific challenges, specific issues in your business. Let's talk them out. That's the beauty of being in these kinds of environments. Anybody online in the chat as well?
Wanted to say I have a client list, probably of about 100 people.
Can you come? I can't hear you. I heard client list.
I have a client list of about 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And
congratulations.
I usually control my cost is, you know, with your ROI you're speaking, I prepare what I need to prepare. I price it at, where I'm making a profit is a value to my customer. And they've learned to learn me that it's usually just a first come, first serve type of deal. And whoever can get to the orders first, I fill them first. But I always do follow back with how was everything, or they hit me back with whatever. And then if I have something coming up in a few weeks, I'll say, hey, I'm doing a 4th of July family dinner, and I'll tell them what's in it and the cost, and then like a pre-order. So then I know what I'm going to need, so I don't have too much waste. And that seems to work out for me well as well. So
Can I ask
what would I?
Go ahead.
I guess I can get more information. My clients know they just tell family and friends, and then I just kind of grow organically like that. So I feel if I send things out, I wouldn't be able to feel the demand and I would want to not be able to feel the demand if I got 200 orders of something, then that's kind of a downfall as well if you can't come through with your promise to the customer. So,
What's your specialty?
Barbecue, smoked meats.
That's your smack your mama dish? Okay.
Yes.
So
Recently it's graduation season, so I've done some college graduations, high school graduations, a lot of them previous clients. The food kind of sells itself for the smells and
do you have
stuff like
staff, or
that.
do you bring people in to help you with specific orders?
No.
Or like, do you have someone on the food truck with you?
Just me, and it's kind of like a drop-off catering type of deal.
At the event?
I have all the equipment, and I either bring it to them. I set everything up, serve if I need to. If they don't need me, usually it's someone I know. I just come back and pick up the equipment. If not, if they like me to stay, I'll serve. And it's kind of just how I do it. So.
Are you doing the Juneteenth event?
Right now, I don't think I'll be able to, just
Okay.
for some personal type things. But here in the future, I'll start doing a lot more events and stuff like that.
So Thomas, right? You said Thomas?
Yes.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is your vision for your business? Where would you like to be 5 years from today with your business?
A commercial kitchen, maybe a brick and mortar that I can work out of, not be in my home. That's like my goal. That way I can open more up to the public, and then I can sit out, collect the information, emails and stuff like that. Right now at the home, it's too small of a location to expand at that point.
Right. And what does it take for you to be able to get a commercial kitchen?
Well, I found a couple places that just didn't work out with the kitchen itself. Either didn't have a working hood, it was a lease. So I'm not going to put the money into the building and it be a lease. It would have to be something that I would have to probably own, I would think.
Like a ghost kitchen, or you would purchase the property, you're saying?
Purchase the property, yeah.
Okay. So at what point do you feel that you would be comfortable making your first hire or doing a contract basis assistant or someone to work with you and I'll tell you why I'm asking as you think about that answer is because there's a difference between growth and scaling, right?
I understand.
And so you might be in a growth phase, which means that you'll have to put more expenses at the outset, paying someone's salary so that you can take those additional orders, so that you do get that revenue and you already know how to do your cost analysis and things. But then when you grow to a certain level, then you can begin to scale by leveraging your systems and your staff and your operations to enable you to actually serve even more without incurring more expenses. And that's scaling. And I know that it's it can be a very scary and and nebulous place to be, to grow. The scaling part is the fun part, because you're like, wow, we're doing even more and the expenses are staying the same.
Sure.
But the growth requires that investment and figuring out that there will be times when, oops, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Being okay with that, learning from it, right? And then making whatever changes, iterations, and pivots you need to make. Because I don't know if you follow Pinky Cole, Slutty Vegan is her brand, right? Have you seen that brand where they line up? Okay, so check out Slutty Vegan. She started as sort of a food truck, and she now is franchises and franchise deals across the nation. And I think she just got a $20 million investment. So from Richelieu, right? So Black owned, Black owned, Black owned. There's a lot of movement there. I would say take a look at how Pinky has approached scaling her business and growing her business, and see if there are things there that you can apply incrementally and test your waters to be able to get more people on your list, to be able to serve more people, and to be able to put more operations in place as you go forward and be able to get the cash to buy the building, buy the block.
Yeah.
So it's
I
great.
don't have an answer to that specific question you had, but you gave me some food for thought. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I've done both, so I failed also. I had a business with partners, so I did have people, employees. We just happened to have a disagreement, and I left that business. So
I
I've
understand.
been doing it solo ever since. So.
Yeah, and God bless you for that. It's not easy. It is not easy. There's nothing about this journey that's easy at all.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. And please, anyone can reach out to me. My information will be at the last slide as well. Are there any questions on the chat?
We don't have any questions on the chat, not yet.
So your turn. What is there something tonight that you heard that you would be willing to implement or look forward to implementing? I would love if people are in the chat, or Thomas or Katrina. Is there something you'd like to implement from what you heard?
I'm just gonna collect the zip codes and stuff like that.
Especially because you're mobile, I could see where there could be a lot of value there. All of my contact information is on the screen. I love to stay connected with folks. I love to help you with your business, especially when there's specificity there. And one of the things that I mentioned during our conversation is that as you're walking around your events, as you're attending events with other business owners and prospective clients and people who are actually hosting the event, that you can create relationships that are mentors, mentees, and peers in your business. Right? So I'm saying to you, Thomas, look to Pinky Cole and what she's doing with Slutty Vegan. And don't get turned off by the name. Definitely check it out if you haven't heard of it. She started in Atlanta. You know, check that out. She could be a virtual mentor for you. Katrina and Thomas could be peers for each other in that room right now and say, hey, you're doing that. Oh, I have people who always want chef. I don't do that because I just deliver the food. Oh, wow. Well, I can go and cook, right? Or I don't cook barbecue. I cook this. So there are always opportunities to forge relationships. And that's why I'm a relationship marketing strategist, because a lot of times we only think about selling and lead generation and don't take into account the relationship, the value of the relationships that you make when you are in the room with people virtually. In the chat, people can be dropping their LinkedIn links and saying, hey, follow me, their Instagram handles, all of that. Like, let's stay connected. How can we level up, especially because you're all geographically located? So the reason I say that is because on the herpowermoves.com/bonus, again, you don't have to give me your email. I did all that talk about email, right? But I believe that you can opt in when you're ready to connect with me, you will, right? I give you opportunities, but I don't force it on you. And so if you go there, there's a video that I've done that, or my A's to the Q's after doing a mentors, mentees, and peers presentation for another organization called SCORE, actually the National SCORE organization. I think they're one of the community navigator partners as well. And so that Q&A is there, as well as the original link for the original mentors, mentees, and peers, and how to leverage those relationships in a mutually beneficial way to help your business expand and grow. And so feel free to go to herpowermoves.com/bonus and you can get those materials there. And I love making connections, so please reach out to me on social, email, LinkedIn, everywhere. Everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. If you have any questions, let's take one more quick opportunity and we can get to those. And I'm not seeing any. So I guess that's going to conclude today's webinar. Again, thank you so much, Michelle, for being here and for the amazing information that you've given to us. We're really, really thankful that this was able to work. And I'd like to thank all of our attendees for your participation, both in the poll and the questions that you've asked. We also will have one more webinar tomorrow, and it's going to be at the same time, so June 9th at 6 p.m. And we are going to cover some financial strategies for your business. So we look forward to having everyone join us again tomorrow at the same time. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.